Hello and welcome to the webinar Website Essentials for Accounting Firms Part 1. Today what we're going to be looking at is what's really important for accounting websites in 2016. So let's get started. So what we're going to cover in Part 1 of this webinar, and Part 2 will be coming in January 2016. If you want to find out more details, check out our website bizinconline.com. But in this part of the webinar we're going to be covering why Google will ignore your site if you don't pass its test, how to turn your website traffic into a sales pipeline, tips and tricks for blogging, and then finally we're going to have a look at how to automate and marketing your firm from as little as 1 minute per week. And that's really important because what we find is that for most accounting firms, time is the biggest issue when it comes to doing marketing, and it often gets dropped. So we've come up with a way to do that from as little as 1 minute per week, and I think you'll be really interested to find out about that. So the first thing I want to look at is mobile friendly. Does your website pass the Google test? So 21% of the people here today say their websites aren't mobile friendly, and 14% don't know if they are. If your site isn't mobile, you're not going to get ranked by Google. Since April 2015, websites that aren't mobile friendly will not rank in Google's mobile search results.
So in other words, if somebody searches for, accountants in your area on their phone and your site isn't mobile friendly, Google isn't even going to list it. Um, so, you know, Google are now saying that more searches are done on phones than are actually being done on desktop devices. Um, so, I would say we've done our own analysis on this, and it's probably not more searches to accounting websites than on mobile than desktop, but it would certainly it's certainly pretty high. So we looked at a cross section of our clients' websites, and an average of 23% of that traffic is coming from mobile, and that breaks down across firms in Australia, New Zealand, and the US, and it's covering all types of firms: single partner firms, firms with 10 plus partners, city firms, rural firms. So a real cross section, and the average came out at 23%. We actually had one firm in Australia. 52% of their traffic is coming from mobile, so incredibly high. Um, and even the lowest, which was actually quite an outlier, most people were around 20%. So the lowest was 9%. So even that's quite a considerable amount of traffic. So the short takeaway from that is you cannot afford not to have a mobile friendly website. So how do we go and test for that? Okay, well there's a website here which is called the Google Mobile Friendly Test. If you just put into Google mobile friendly test, this will come up, or the domain name is google.com. In fact, I'm going to paste this into the chat window so that you can see that. So go away and test your website. So I'm just going to do a test on one of our clients' websites. So put your website in, click analyze, it will go away and have a think about that. Hopefully this comes back as mobile friendly. Well, in fact, obviously I know it will because I wouldn't be showing it to you. So yeah, that's the result you want. Awesome. This page is mobile friendly and you know your site is all good. If your site isn't mobile friendly, then obviously you're going to want to do something about that. So we'll just jump back into the slides and I'll show you what I think we should do in terms of that. So you want to get mobile. You got two choices. You can go for a dedicated mobile site, or you can go for a responsive website. So I say you're much better going with a responsive website. When mobile websites became a big deal, which would be about 5 years ago, there was I guess quite a bit of debate and about which way you should go. So a dedicated mobile site is when you build a completely separate site using a slightly different technology than a normal website, and you redirect your mobile traffic to that. A responsive website is where you code your existing website to adapt to different screen sizes. So when it's being viewed on a desktop, it'll look one way, a tablet another way, and a phone another way. But essentially, it's the same website. It's just the view that is changing. And really for smaller websites, which most accounting websites would come into, responsive is far better because it basically is a lot simpler to maintain. It means you're not managing two different websites. You're also not splitting your SEO traffic, and often people don't really want a stripped down version of your website, which a dedicated mobile site often is. So my advice would be go for a responsive site, and how to do that. It's very hard to retrofit responsiveness onto an existing website. It's probably more effort than rebuilding it. So if you've got a website that's not mobile friendly, I would suggest that just go and get your website redesigned, and use that as an opportunity to have a look at other things like your content and your marketing at the same time. I mean, hopefully nobody listening has gone and had a website redesigned in the last year and it's not mobile friendly, because no sort of web developer really should be doing non-mobile sites in 2015. So yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I'd say don't pay over the odds for a responsive site. If your web designer is coming back and saying there's a big cost to go and do that, you should question that, because it's really a standard feature now. If you go off what Google are saying, and there's more traffic coming from mobile than desktop, then it's just something that should be built into websites. So yeah, I mean, if you're really struggling with that, I definitely don't want this to be a sales pitch, but we can help you out with getting a mobile site. You can and just book a demo with us. Victoria can put a link into the chat window. Click that, book a demo, and we can show you how you can get a responsive site pretty easily. So next thing I want to have a look at in terms of website essentials for the new year is building a sales pipeline. What I really want 2016 to be is the year when accountants start to see their website as the key tool in generating new business. So get rid of this idea that it's just an online brochure, and look at the website as something that's really going to deliver sales. So how to do that? Well, first thing is to accept that new business is not just about referrals. Obviously, they're going to be a big part of it. Probably the mainstay of new business will be referrals, but obviously the first thing that anyone who's referred to you, even by one of their most trusted colleagues or peers, they're going to put your name into Google and go and check out your website. So the first thing is that websites help with referrals, but I don't want to talk about that today. What we really want to talk about is, aside from referrals, how can we get sales coming from the website? So the second thing I was going to say is you probably don't need more traffic. I'm going to talk about this in more detail in a minute, but most firms seem to focus on search engines and getting more traffic to the website. That might be a problem, but it's not usually the major problem. The major problem is, does your website convert? So by that I mean, do visitors who go to the website get in touch, and do they eventually become clients? Do they convert into new business? So this is like a standard kind of marketing funnel, and I see that most firms are putting their effort and resource into that top part of the funnel, which is attracting more people to their website. And actually, I think you should flip it the other way and put your effort, at least at first, into making your website convert. So to give an example, a 1% conversion rate with 300 monthly visitors to a website is better than 600 visitors and a 0.5 conversion rate. You might get the same end result from those, but it's a lot more expensive to try and double your visitor numbers than it is to double your conversion rate. And the other part of that is that if you've got a 1% conversion rate and you can get to 600 visitors, then your return on investment on that traffic and what you spent on getting those people to your website is doubled. So what I'm saying is, sort your conversion rate out first, and then drive traffic to the website. And we'll talk about driving traffic to the website in the next part of the webinar next year. But I think the focus really should be conversion first. So what are some of the things you can do to start converting visitors into clients? So the first thing you need to do, and this is almost just like to get you to the starting line, is make sure your contact details are everywhere. So you want your phone number to be very clear. Probably want your social media details if you do that. Clear contact us. A form that people can use, and maybe something that live chat. So there's several different ways on that page for somebody to get in touch. It's very easy for the visitor to get in touch. People's attention span is very low and they don't have much time. So you've got to capture their attention straight away and give them every opportunity to contact you. And kind of adding on to that, allow users to get in touch their way. Some people really like a phone number. Some people really want to send an email. Live chat is something that I would strongly suggest that you have a look at in 2016. It's something that we implemented on our own website this year, and it's been really, really successful for us. We don't get a huge amount of messages coming through it, but those people who do are really engaged, and we're able to move them along the sales funnel, and I'd say kind of like probably 2 in 3 of those people end up coming to a sales demo. So you can get a live chat tool. Drop me an email at the end if you want a recommendation on some different live chat tools. That there are several very good ones that are free. And another thing that you might want to have a look at is scheduling software. Actually, that link that's sitting in the chat window, which is to book a demo with us, is an example of that. So we implemented that earlier this year, and that's been really successful for us. What that means is that people can book an appointment, and they can see when you're available. You can block out time. It can work off different staff's calendars. You can even have paid appointments in there. So one of our clients does that. You can actually pay to you can buy some of his time and talk to him, but it's really easy for the user. And the other thing that we found with that is that's saving us about 10 minutes of admin time per demo. And we're probably booking 40-50 demos per month. If you do the maths on that, then that's a huge time saving across a year. So it's really slick, and just a really, it also looks really good to clients as well that you've got those kind of systems in there. So it's a really good way to start an engagement. So I'd say, focus on your calls to action, your ways for people to contact you. That's really important. But if you really want to start driving targeted leads, you're going to have to look at capturing data. So even though hopefully you do some of those things I've just discussed, you make it incredibly easy for people to get in touch. The reality is that most people won't get in touch. Most website visitors aren't going to call, aren't going to drop you an email. A statistic I often use is that Amazon, which is probably the biggest e-commerce store in the world, certainly top 5, their conversion rate is something like 12 to 15%, which is really high actually. Flip that the other way is that 85% plus people don't buy. So for accountants, that conversion rate is much, much lower. So you're working with a very small percentage of people who will get in touch. But just because they don't get in touch, that doesn't mean they're not interested in you and what you do. So the key is to try and start a relationship with them, not necessarily at this point, a business, a billing relationship, but a means of keeping in touch with them. So example I've got on the page here is one of our clients, and what they do is give away some valuable content in exchange for an email address. So I'd call that giving to get back. Another way you might describe that is content marketing or inbound marketing. It's just the way modern marketing is done. You've got to give away something to get that valuable email address. And why an email address is so valuable is that if you go back to those conversion rates, let's say the conversion rate of your website is 1%. So you're only going to get one lead for every 100 people who visit. with email marketing, it's not unusual to have a conversion rate of around 10%. So, obviously then you send 100 emails, you get 10 leads. So what you want to do is have a means of building a targeted database on your website. So then obviously there'll be a certain amount of people who do contact you, but then you want another percentage of people who give you their email address. Then you can continue marketing to them, and then hopefully it's a higher percentage, maybe in the 10% range of those become clients. And this is where having really good content on your site helps. You can give some of that away in exchange for an email address. So you can see on this website they're giving away a free guide. They've made that look visually appealing. Really good calls to action, the download button and the form here with the access now button. And so this firm, which is an Australian firm, Omnis Group, have used this guide here and various other similar tactics, and they went from getting no website leads every month to an average of 16 leads each month. 60% of those leads become clients, and each client is worth $4,000 per year. So just by putting in these data capture forms and then doing some marketing to them after that has made that huge difference. Data capture is the first part of it. You've still got to do something with those email addresses, and that's something that we're going to cover in the second part of the webinar, is how you can create emails that nurture those leads and then eventually turn them into clients. And what's great is that you can actually automate a large part of that process. So another thing that the Omnis Group do is that they have different calls to action and different giveaways for different parts of their websites. So you can see different pages on their websites. They give away different ebooks, different kind of action plans and things like that. And if you're targeting different types of clients, you may be targeting, say, business or personal clients, you should have different giveaways for each. Obviously, a personal client might be more wealth based, and a business might be like planning and cash flow and that kind of thing. So fit the giveaway to the client type. So it's like all marketing, the more focused you are, the better results you're going to get. So it's always better to appeal strongly to a small group than weakly to a larger group. And following on from that targeting idea is landing pages. So what I mean by landing pages is just a page that's focused on a single topic. And those pages normally have a very clear goal as well. And that goal is normally to get the user to take action. That might be sign up for a demo, download this guide, join a webinar. That's what a landing page is. So, I'd recommend creating landing pages for your target markets. Some landing pages may have a local focus, or it may be by industry or niche. Make pages specifically for those markets that you're trying to focus on. And you can have visible or hidden landing pages. A visible landing page, what I mean by that would be it's something that people can navigate to. So, for example, if you did, specified in accounting for retail businesses, that would be something that you probably want to put in your menu so people can find that. You may then focus on 4 or 5 different suburbs or regional areas. Probably don't want those in your menu because it would just look a little bit weird, but you could still have those there as hidden pages, so they're still there on your website, they're just not in your menus, and then you can use those for marketing campaigns that you send out, or search engines will still pick those up, and you can have them sitting there. And if you've got campaigns going to a specific page, it makes it far easier to measure the results of what happens. And the final thing would be to think about search engines. Again, that's something we're going to cover in more detail in the second webinar, but landing pages are a really good place to help you get a good ranking in search engines like Google. So a good example would be if you were doing a page with a local focus. So it might be accountants Auckland. Then you do a load of content that's just focused on that specific regional keyword. And so Google really likes pages that are very specific. What Google's trying to do is, put the pages that are most relevant to a term at the top of their listings. And, there's other factors that come into it, but having a very specific page is going to help you along that journey. Before I move on to the next part, which is blogging, I think the lead generation part of what I'm trying to talk about here is probably the thing that's closest to my heart, because I see a lot of firms and they do still look at their website as a brochure. But I think if you start looking at better calls to action, content giveaways, and capturing some data, you really can start making your website deliver leads to you rather than just be, a fairly static kind of brochure-based site. Okay, so blogging, I think like mobile, like we talked about earlier, you've probably heard people talking about blogging for quite a while, being told you need to do it or this kind of thing. And I think 2016 is kind of when you do really need to get on board with blogging. Reasons why. First of all, it keeps your site looking fresh. Doesn't seem like such a big thing, but I think it's quite important. If we go back to the referral side of things, given that most people who get referred to you are going to look at your website, it's not great. It's not a great look if they come in and see, your last blog post was in 2012 or something, or your site is very static and looks very dull. So just keeping a blog, even if it's only once a month, it shows that you're active, that, you kind of, proactive firm. So it's, even for that reason, it's worth doing. The second thing is it's a really good place to show your personality. It's hard to do that in other parts of the website. Writing about accounting services can be a little bit dry. With a blog, you can actually bring out your voice a little bit more and show that personality. So I think that's certainly a worthwhile reason for doing it. And a big one for me is that you can focus your efforts. We're going to talk about time later, and something that I just come back to again and again is that most firms we work with do not have the time to do marketing or online marketing. So everything you can do to save time, and that includes focusing, is really important. So if you agree that you should be updating your website, and you definitely should be doing that, then a blog is the best place to do that. It's the most natural place to update your website, and you can really focus your efforts. So a few tips on blogging. My first one would be probably what you say to most businesses, is that you need a plan. If you just sort of like throw yourself into it, probably do a few good posts, and then it'll fall away. So I think have a plan. Don't aim too high with it. Be realistic and think, okay, if I can only do a post every month, and that post is only going to be, a few hundred words long, then that's how you should start, and be realistic with that. But it's worth sticking with it, because the results do come. They don't come instantly with blogging, but they will come later. in terms of what to write about, focus on pain points. This might seem really obvious to some people. I don't know, to some others. I was chatting to a firm in Canada yesterday, and he was asking me what I should blog about, and I said, well, what do your clients ask you about? And we talked about that. He focuses a lot on farming and rural accountants, and they have some really specific questions that are very different than other businesses. And I said, well, what are the 10 things that you get asked the most? And start talking about them. And he just started reading this stuff off about farm accounting and what you do if there's this head of cattle and there's this happens and blah blah blah. So I was like, well, they're your blog posts. If your clients are having those problems and you get asked those questions all the time, then your prospects are having those problems, and by writing about them, you're helping them, you're demonstrating your expertise, your very specific expertise, and that's going to draw people towards you. So focus on pain points. What I think is a really good idea, and I think what a lot of writers would do, is have a notepad handy for ideas. That might be literally a pen and paper. It may be something like Evernote and just a software program like that. One guy I know, he dictates his blog posts and has someone transcribe them for him. So whatever way you do it, record ideas. Ideas are going to come to you in the weirdest of places. It might be that you're in the supermarket and you start thinking about something to do with pricing, or I don't know. You're reading the local paper and there's an interesting business story, and you can comment on that. If we always think, don't we? Oh, I'll remember that, and then a few hours later it's gone out of your head. So have some way of recording ideas. That's really important. Just to jump back to the pain points thing, is that one of our clients, he was always being asked whether you could claim sales tax on second-hand goods, and he thought, I always get asked this. I'm just going to write a blog post and then I can send the link to clients. And he wrote that post, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's the most trafficked page to his website, and he gets a lot of traffic to his website. He's had numerous clients come from that post. I mean, he's had numerous inquiries that led to nothing as well, but it's just because it hit, whether call that a pain point or certainly something that people really wanted to know. And if you type that into Google in New Zealand, that will come up as like pretty much, I think it's the top post on that subject. So, not all your posts are going to hit the mark like that, but there'll be something there that you can come up with that could be a really great source of interest. And the final thing I would say is, if it's too hard, buy in help. Writers are not as expensive as you think. Almost certainly their hourly rate will be less than yours, and they're professional writers, so they're going to do a better job. There's plenty of freelance writers out there. You can use things like Odesk or one of those freelancing sites, or obviously there's companies like BizInc that specialize in content for accountants and can do that for you. But I think you find that option would be a lot kind of cheaper, and it's obviously easier than you think. And that kind of leads into why you might do that is to do with time. And we do a survey every year of accounting firms to find out what they're doing online, what they're doing with their websites. And probably doesn't come as much of a surprise that their greatest marketing challenge for accounting firms is finding time to do online marketing. 53.4% said that was their greatest challenge. So with that in mind, I mean, I think the two things that you've got to look at in 2016 is if you be realistic about what you're going to do with your online marketing this year. If you didn't do a lot of marketing in 2015 or 2014, what's going to make this year any different? If you see it as valuable, then you either have to make time for it or be realistic and think, okay, I can hire someone, I can outsource, and/or automate as much of that as possible. My guess is that most people on the webinar aren't going to hire a full-time person, so there's kind of two ways you can go if you need to get marketing done and you don't have the time. So I'd say number one is outsourcing that, and number two is automating it, and obviously can do those two things in conjunction. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. What I wanted to do is just jump into into our demo website and just show you how that can work from a practical point of view. So if I just jump into the website here, so this is the back end of one of our websites, and you can see there's a whole bunch of blog posts in there. So in terms of outsourcing your writing, you can have somebody write for you on a monthly basis, get a writer in, or you can buy, a whole load of content in one go. So what we do is we would give you, I think we've got like about 100 plus blog posts you would start off with, and then we'll give you new posts on a weekly basis. And how that can work from a practical point of view. So if I'll just jump into this one here. And so you've got a blog post here, all written for you. You can edit that if you want. You can make it more specific to any industries or niches that you work with. You can add an image like I've done here, and that's ready to go. So in terms of the effort on your part, it's hitting publish, choosing a blog post and hitting the publish button. So that's all very easy. What we've also done is, in terms of automation, link the blog up here on the right to Facebook and Twitter. And you could also link it up to Google Plus and LinkedIn, which I think a lot of firms would want to do that. So what happens is if I hit publish, that's going to go live on the blog here. So you can see that's gone live. But what it will also do is, the automation side of it is, if I refresh Twitter, you can see that's automatically posted to the Twitter stream here, just with that one click. And it's also gone to Facebook as well. Let's refresh that. There it is. And like I say, that could go to LinkedIn or Google Plus as well, if those are platforms that you use. The other part of automation that you can pull together is an automated email newsletter. So going back to the email marketing, like I say, that's a very high conversion rate. Email marketing outperforms all other forms of online marketing by some way. Probably outperforms search engines by nearly 2 times. It will outperform things like social media by 4 or 5 times in terms of return on investment, that is. So what we've created here is an automated newsletter based on the blog. So this one sends out every month on the second Tuesday at 9 a.m. And if I view a preview of it, you can see it pulls in content from the blog. There's a read more button, because people don't buy from you in their inbox. They'll do that from your website. And obviously, if you go and do some of those things that I talked about earlier in terms of calls to action, that's where you want them, on your website. where they're going to get engaged and interact in that way. So this is all automatically created from the content you put on your blog. It will create a mobile friendly newsletter and then send that off to your databases that you choose. So we've got an import from Practice Manager here, a Zero Practice Manager, and some website subscribers. And then we would create that for you. It's completely automated, and that will go out every month on whatever day you choose to your databases. The whole principle of this is going back to this idea of focus with the blog. You maintain your blog and put content on the blog, and then that's going to power your social media, and it's also going to power your email newsletter as well. So you can come in and probably the way I would recommend to do it is actually use the scheduling in here. And you could come in and spend maybe 5 minutes at the start of each month scheduling 4 posts. That would be a really good amount of blog posts to send in a month. Schedule those one each week, and then you've done your you've done a good foundation of your online marketing for the whole month. If you may on top of that want to do some specific promotions or things around certain times of the year or whatever, but that means you've got an active blog, just really going to help your website, social media, and your newsletter all being covered. So there's obviously other ways you can automate things. We'll show some of those in the next webinar as well, but I just wanted to show you that power of automation in practice is that marketing doesn't need to be this huge effort. Really fairly inexpensive to do something like this. And I'm not joking that it would take less than 5 minutes a month to get something sorted like that. So I'm just going to jump back into the presentation. And so they're the first few essentials that I'd like you to have a think about for next year. I want to keep this as a fairly brief webinar because I don't want you to be overwhelmed, but I think the really important things to consider for your website next year, you have to get mobile if you're not already. So going off the attendees of this webinar, we've still got nearly a quarter of firms who aren't mobile. That's really going to hurt you this year if you don't do that, and it's going to keep on hurting you more and more because more people are using mobile devices to connect. For some people, it's their primary internet device is their phone. They don't even own a computer, so that's really important. Second thing is get your site converting. This to me is the most. Mobile is super important, but I really love to see firms this year getting high converting websites. So the steps you should take is improve your calls to action. So, hopefully you've got a bit of downtime, quiet time, maybe over the, in the new year. And you could look at thinking, well, is our phone number prominent on the website? Could we make contacting us a little bit easier? Perhaps you want to implement something like live chat or a scheduling tool. Have a look at your calls to action because there isn't going to be one thing out of all of these that gives you a huge amount of success, but there's lots of little things that will add up to that bigger success. Another thing you should do is try to add a landing page to your site. Maybe look to create 2, one based on your local area and have a really focused one on something to do with your local area, and another one on a specialization or industry that you focus on. They can really help you convert, and there's some search engine benefits there too. This is the big one for me is create a data capture giveaway. That's quite a horrible sentence, but what I mean by that is just that thing of giving away some content in exchange for somebody's email address. That's super important that you have something like that on your site, because let's say that you 1% is your conversion rate. So even if you're getting 1,000 visitors to your site every month, which is probably more than than most firms. It's not a huge amount of leads coming through. But if you have something where you're giving away something really valuable, you grab some email addresses, that means you can keep marketing to those people and you'll dramatically increase your conversion rates. Blog at least once per month. I mean, hopefully you've got a blog. If not, look to get a site that has a blog on it. Again, that should be a standard feature on a website these days. Yeah, and just try and get a blog post out once a month. Probably more than that is ideal. And if that's a struggle, investigate outsourcing that. I think you'd be surprised on how cost effective that can be, and the quality that you can get for a fairly low cost. And the final one I'd be talking about is saving time. Outsource, automate, or both. There's obviously things that you're probably being told in terms of running your practice in general. That's obviously a little bit harder than outsourcing, say, blogging. So yeah, I don't think it's something to be scared of, outsourcing your marketing. There's lots of different options you can go with, and in terms of automating it, again, so many tools out there, many of which are inexpensive or even free, to automate that process.